Welcome back to the DTF Film Sessions. I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMaxDean, and I am here once again with Owen McCullor at Weekly Huddle on Twitter, and he is a contributor for us at the Defiant Takes Football draft team, and we are going to talk about. Usually better at starting these off. All right.
No, it's all right. I get you. We just went through a whole 30 minutes of talking, and then you had a break, and it's like, okay, gotta talk again.
Welcome back to the DTF Film Sessions. I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMaxDean, and I'm here with Owen McCullor once again, and we're back to talk about edge players again. You can find Owen at Weekly Huddle on Twitter, and he is a member of the Defiant Takes Football draft team. So I'm looking forward to getting into another edge player. This one, I'm, full disclosure, not as high on. We're talking about BJ Ojulari, the edge defender from LSU. And yeah, you and I feel differently about this player.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. I watched 2 games. I watched Tennessee and I watched Florida. And the first game I watched, I'm clipping plays. And I'm like, I'm looking for something good. And I'm like, all right, I've gotten well into this game and I'm not seeing what I want to see. So I'm going to check out another game, just see if this was like a bad day for him. And I didn't feel like it was any better versus Florida either. So I picked the plays that I could, and just the reasoning plays that describe why I'm not that high on him. And you're gonna have every opportunity to try and change my mind here. So,
Gotcha.
What are your overall thoughts on BJ Ojulari?
Yeah, so obviously he's the brother of Azeez Ojulari, former Georgia Bulldog, now New York Giant. So he has that pedigree when it comes to NFL talent, and Azeez was always talked about as being this athletic guy, kind of similar to what we talked about when we talked about Nolan Smith, where undersized, needs a specific role, and his measurables are pretty comparable to his brother with BJ there. And I think the same issues. I wasn't a big fan of Azeez. I know a lot of people who had him as like a round one kind of guy. I was just not there. And I think BJ is a little further along as a pass rusher than Azeez was. I think he has some of these pass rush moves that these guys were like, okay, he needs to be developed more, that they don't have. Like he has that Von Miller ghost move where he doesn't even put his hands on you and he just avoids your punch, uses your own momentum against you. He has shown the ability to use his length and have counters like spin moves and swims, things like that. I watched him against some of the higher competition he faced, such as Alabama and Georgia. And there were some of those games where it was like, okay, he popped. And it was like, I can see where this guy can get a lot of attraction when it comes to like teams looking for a pure pass rusher who is further along and can contribute year one. But at the same time, there were some really ugly plays when it came to like run defense and things like that, where he doesn't have the best core strength or play strength. So he's getting blocked up by tight ends in the run games, getting moved by guys, especially when he's like, I watched in the Georgia game, Darnell Washington really manhandled him on a couple plays there. So you can see where, okay, there's some room to grow here. To counteract it, I think he used athleticism good enough in the run game as like the backside defender. I wouldn't ever draft him to be a play side, like, oh, take on a block, shed it, and get this play, or make this tackle behind the line of scrimmage. But if he's left unblocked, or like this trying to get reached by a backside tackle, he shows a lot more play strength and a lot better core strength when he's working laterally, because he's just a better athlete than a lot of these offensive linemen are. So it's less of a struggle to convert that to power while in movement. So it's going to be a scheme-specific kind of thing when it comes to what you want from him as a run defender. You may even take him off the field as a run defender if you're a certain kind of defense. But as a pass rusher, I'm really intrigued with where he is already so far in his young career. And with the fact that the pedigree he has and the amount of moves he's shown that he's already trying to tinker with and make and fit into his game, as well as the ones he's already successful with, I think there's a lot to contribute right away and room to grow as a pure pass rusher out the gate.
So for me, first of all, he's the same height as Nolan Smith. He's got about 10 pounds on him. He's got better length as well. But the biggest difference between the two is obviously Smith's an incredible athlete, but it's just the effort. I just don't see the effort that I want to see from him on a play-to-play basis. And I was just waiting to find a play where it's like, okay, if I can get this consistently, then I'm going to be really happy with this pick. And I'm not taking him off the draft board or anything. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but for me, it would be, I wouldn't take him in the top 50. And I haven't literally scouted 50 players. I'm like fully disclosed that. But based on what I've seen so far and just what I've seen from him and where I kind of expect other guys to be just based on a little bit of viewing, I would not be really excited to take him in the top 50 or even the first 2 rounds in general. I think when you get into the 3rd round, then you can really bank on traits and you can be fine with that. So let's jump into the tape and let me explain myself, because I know a lot of people have him in the top 50, and you certainly seem to have him even a little bit higher than that. So let's look at our film and get into it. All right. So this is just all right. So everything's just kind of sloppy here too. Like in general, I just don't feel like there's much refinement in technique. I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I want to let you go first before I just go in on it, right? Because I don't love it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is definitely a play I'm going to be critical of, because he reads it well. Like, he understands, okay, there's a puller coming at me. They're going to try to run underneath me, and he takes the angle where we kind of talked about it before, where you want to attack the upfield shoulder, and what he doesn't do is rip through and then reset his feet. So he kind of just allows himself to get washed down. So the play originally is just to kick him out and run underneath. He reads it well and attacks it the way you want him to attack it, closing that gap, forcing the bounce outside. What you also want him to do is try to turn it back upfield and even make the tackle himself. So you'll see a guy like Will Anderson do the same thing, where he'll take the guy on here, but instead of just taking him on and being like, okay, well, I'm done, I've taken up this block and allowing my second level defender come over here, he will rip through the guy's inside shoulder, run his feet, and then also impact the play behind the line of scrimmage. So this kind of plays in what I was saying, where his play strength and things like that, I don't know if this is an effort thing or if this is just him not being able to overcome this moving tight end as a strength condition, which is really going to be an issue when it comes to the NFL, when it comes to holding up in the run defense. But he makes the right decision. He attacks it the way you want to attack it initially, but once he meets contact is where he starts having a bit of an issue. I think it could be more of a mental thing where he loses leverage. If he just tried to get his arm and to rip through the guy's inside shoulder, he'd be able to impact his play a little more and even make the tackle behind him line of scrimmage by himself. It's not a great play personally, but at the same time, I think he can improve on this. And if this play came around to try to do this again to him a second time, you could coach him up to the point where he's already in a position enough, and you just got to finish out the play now instead of just taking that contact and just accepting it and getting washed down.
For me, it's just like it's like he kind of shrugs into the guy. So this really is an effort thing for me. And it's like, I just want to see more on a play-to-play basis. I want to see more energy. I want to see more get off. I want to see more ferocity. It's like, there's only so much that you can do to externally motivate a player. Like, if you got to spend the entire game trying to get him to play harder, then it's just, I just feel like that's wasted time, right? Like, he comes in, he just kind of shrugs into the guy. So like, he lowers his shoulder, but he doesn't drive at all. He lets his body bounce off of him, right? You can see right there. Boop. He's like, I'm fine with it. And then, when you see the end zone cam, the amount of space that creates, like, you've got your safety right there. 24 is right there. Like, if there isn't, I mean, he doesn't exactly drive on it the way I'd love either, but still, like, you're not really giving him the opportunity to do his job. Like, you got in the way and you just let yourself get just pushed out. So as a 250-pound player, like, I don't really see, especially a condensed one, there's really no reason that you should lose the leverage battle this badly right here. But anyway.
What you said is a fair criticism. I think the the motivation is not there. You're correct, and it comes to a problem when we come with these college players where they're really good when they're in high school. They come up, and this guy he's good at as a pass rusher, and that's really what people value a lot. And you see this a lot when it comes to like there was questions with this with Chase Young and one of the Bosick brothers. It was like, well, he's getting all this praise heaped on him. He doesn't think he really needs to have that effort to try. But Ojulari isn't the level of talent those guys are when it comes to run defending and play strength, things like that. So he can't afford to think that way. And the hope for you is that once he gets to the NFL, it's going to be like a reality checkup call where he's not going to get the starts. He's not going to get as much playing time as he wants until he fixes that. And maybe it's his brother getting in his ear or his father, someone who's obviously he's got that motivation and those genetics and everything behind him. He has everything to succeed. It's going to be what can he internally do for himself. And maybe once he's out of the waters of I'm the best thing on this defense, I'm getting these starts kind of thing, he might be able to correct that with good coaching and just a reality check in general.
And I understand all that, but that's just why, like for me, I couldn't do first two rounds with that. Like that's just too much hoping for me. All right, so let's take a look at the next play here. All
So
right.
yeah, this is more of what I was talking about the last plays. If he were to have done this, it's almost an identical play with the sniffer tight end coming over, and I guess they have a pulling blocker this time as well. So it's an even bigger blocker. He does get slightly bumped inside, but he rips through that inside shoulder, doesn't allow himself to get washed down, and is able to come off and make the tackle. This would have been if you would have done this in the earlier clip, it would have been preventing of a touchdown. It's just more of that technique and consistency where he clearly was like, okay, I have this guard coming at me. Let's take this guy on and really affect this play. I'm going to come inside, rip through, run my feet, reset my feet, get a good base, and then make the tackle through the contact and not allow this running back to get past me and up to the second level where they have numbers now because they have pullers and they have some guys pulling through. He was able to clog it up, take him on, rip through his inside shoulder. That's how you coach it up. Like that's what you want them to do. It's just the consistency and the drive to want to do it is what failed him on the first play. Maybe he wasn't expecting it and it was just slow to click and realize, but at the same time, he recognized it in the first play. This one, he recognizes it and does the right thing. So you can see that the player, the guy that you want him to be is in there. The player who takes these blocks on, rips through it, and makes a play exists. And this is a much better play than the first one on a similar kind of concept. It's just that consistency issue with what we're seeing from play one to play two here.
Right. And so there's a couple things I do like. First of all, right here, he gets his left hand on the tackle to help squeeze because anything that you can do to reduce space is helpful. So if like you've just got a free hand, you just want to put it on the tackle, that's fine. And then he lowers his shoulder into the, I guess that's the guard, pulling guard here. And then, he moves a little, but not too bad. The one thing I don't love here is that once he resets, I'd love to see this be a strike instead of a catch, right? So like he basically takes the running back to his chest and kind of bounces back. And maybe he makes that tackle, especially with that pile of guys there anyway. But it's not until the other defender comes in that they're really driving him backwards. So I just like to be him a little bit more dominant in the way that he tackles, especially when he's there. I know he's got some mess on his feet, I understand, but I would like to see him be the one exerting will on the running back here.
And that's fair because he probably definitely has the size advantage when it comes to that kind of thing. I do think that there is room for this to grow, and the power run defending game is definitely not something. So, like for me, who has him higher, that's not something that I'm like saying like, oh yeah, he's a great run defender, great power guy. That's why I have him high. It's definitely an area that you're like, okay, this is going to need cleaning up. And even plays where he does like here, where he does a good job of taking on the blocker, ripping through, and making the play. There's still room, like you have pointed out, for him to grow, which is kind of encouraging when you have the other side of it when it comes to the pass rush stuff, which we'll touch on. I believe it's the next play. And it's better. And I think that's where he's going to hang his hat on initially. It just shows that he has room to grow, even when it comes to like where his negatives are in his game, which is going to be that run defending and play side strength.
So, All right. So this one is so double-edged because, and we can see it. This is it's it's kind of like sloppy and kind of careless, and it's so sudden at the same time. Like this just shows you what he could be, but just so how far he has to go all in one play.
Yeah, I think he has those moments where he has the speed upfield to attack. He's shown the ability to win with these speed moves. This is where the tackle gets his hands on him. He isn't able to swipe him off right away, so he does lose his balance because he doesn't have the control all the way through. However, he's able to recover and then spin off. And if this quarterback holds the ball under half a second, this is going to be an actual legitimate pressure, or it stays in the pocket anyway, and as well as hold the ball. But this shows some of the stuff where it's like, yeah, he's not Will Anderson. He's not these guys who are going to go out there and be a dominant 10 sack player year one, but he's going to be able to give you like 6, 7, 8 because he has these counters. Most of these guys who lose this right here, where he misses the swipe, it's something that he's not doing well with in this play, but he has that counter boom right away. He understands, like, okay, I have this guy moving on the back foot. Let me just go spin back inside, where some of these other defensive linemen will go into the guy. And if their first move fails, they kind of just accept it. Okay, let the play another down. And even though he's scrambling away, I'm stumbling here. I'm looking like an idiot. Let's just reset and then try to win the play off the snap next time. He keeps fighting, spins through, and it just shows like, and this spin move isn't just isolated to this one rep. He shows that consistently where these guys are afraid of his speed move, where like obviously the tackle is setting up and he tries to get the speed move at first. Maybe not with the best explosiveness, but I think he might have been thinking about going to this counter all the way through, which is why he came up with it with such hesitation. It's just going to be a situation where he needs to get more reps of these different moves and really work them with a NFL level coach. And he's going to have these initial moves work as well as have these counters all the way through that I think he already has a good baseline on and can just always improve on those as well.
I mean, you can see the balance after not having fallen over, but the other thing is that, if you whiff that hard on an NFL left tackle, like you're getting your face driven into the ground right here. Like he is just gonna just throw you face down and lay on you. And so it's impressive that he doesn't fall down and that he's able to, and that he does put the effort in to throw the spin and come out. But it's like, again, it's just, for me, if you play it in real time, super fast, but there's just so far to go before I can trust putting him on the field on any kind of consistent basis. All right, let's take a look at the next one here.
Yeah, so he's sitting up here with another more wide alignment, and like I've talked about, he has that speed and explosiveness, kind of like how his brother did, kind of how we recently talked about with Nolan Smith, where he's able to establish the outside and threaten it, forcing this tackle to try to take an more outside set, allowing for that inside change of direction move there. There's no real hand usage I'm overly excited about. He does get a little bit of a swipe here. I would have liked it more rip through out the inside shoulder. But it just shows that he's able to attack both inside and out, whereas like a guy like Nolan Smith or some of these other guys who hang their hat on just being a speed rusher, they'll usually sometimes shy away from trying to crash back inside and get all mucked up in the dirt there because they lack that size or because they're not confident enough that they have the power to drive through guys. Ojulari here is able to both threaten the outside enough to the point where the tackle needs to overset for that, especially with the line alignment, and then have that change of direction and understanding that he has now the advantage if he takes it inside. So he goes and takes it inside, beats the tackle across the face, and is able to put pressure and force the quarterback out of the pocket just from previous snaps and reps, kind of like the last one where the tackle probably knows he's trying to win upfield. Let me try to set out a little wider, and now he gets the inside counter right off the snap instead of going back to and getting the inside spin counter later into the rep.
So again, it shows you the burst and the change of direction, but at the same time, the lack of refinement. So he leaves his feet too much for my liking, right? Like there's just too much time where he's got neither foot on the ground Because if you take a punch right there, you're completely thrown out of the play. And so, again, I don't know who this left tackle is for Tennessee, but you're susceptible there. And then, like you said, doesn't really use hands just a little bit to run through that. He does affect the play. Like, he creates this pressure. He causes Hooker. I think that's Hendon Hooker to leave the pocket before throwing the ball. But this is a pure traits play here. There's, you know what I mean? Like, he jumps, kind of tries to condense his body and then run through. But it's just so much projection. All right. Okay, I think I know what play this is.
Yeah, so he's lined up against the tight end here, and this is going to be the big touchdown pass from Richardson here. I think we'll get a better angle of it to talk about it when it gets to here. So first, to begin the play, I do like how he has his eyes in the backfield and gets his hands on it early. It's not something that like is super notable. And we have talked about how he is lengthier than a guy like Nolan Smith, but he still isn't the most like long kind of player. He is only 6'2". He's in the 77th percentile when it comes to like edge rushers. So it's not like he can hang his hat on being this long, lengthy guy. And when he gets into a guy early with his first step, he can get control a little easier. But after this play, he finds the ball. Sees that it's not going to be an actual run play. It's a counter back. He then tries to make his move. He loses that initial leverage he gets. So then the tight end's able to use his own length against him, and it prevents him from really being able to disengage and attack the quarterback here. I think there are going to be plays where he's mismatched when it comes to strength and length and things like that. So he needs to overcome that, which is what we pointed out when he said he was only 6'2". He's a little more compact. It's at around 250. So this is going to be a guy that you don't want him being like your base play side defensive end where he's going to have to take on blocks, stack and shed, and make a play. That's just not his game. Where it's going to work is going to be when he's able to have that angle advantage right away and use his speed to attack a guy. So plays like this where it's hard play action, the tight end just gets into him and is stuck on him, it's going to not be advantageous to what he can do and present as a player. Whereas if it's a play where he's the unmanned guy left on the backside of a run play, he can chase the ball down from the backside. Or if this is going to be a tackle and they give him room to work initially, he should be able to get off and make this play. It's just going to be more of a schemed up scenario where he's not able to impact this play as much as you'd hope so. But there's also room to grow here when it comes to adding more weight on his frame, getting more of this idea of how he can use his hands better to disengage from players who get the length on him. That's more stuff that can be coached up. It's just going to be an issue of getting him in the right spot initially where he doesn't have to face plays like this where he's going to be facing up, head up on the tight end kind of thing. He's going to be more of a wide alignment where these kind of plays are going to be less normal for him to experience.
But and I agree, but like this is a college tight end. You know what I mean? Like this isn't even a tackle. This isn't even like a 300-pound right tackle. This is a tight end, and like he doesn't try and rip out of this at all. You gotta rip him and throw him down, and he just kind of tries to like move off of him, but he doesn't displace any of the leverage of the tight end. So he just ends up getting completely stonewalled. And so if that's how you're getting beaten by tight ends in college, then it's just like, I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough for me to really like this guy. All right. Last play, I think. Okay, so a little bit better in terms of he gets pushed a little bit out of the way. And he gets in on the play, but also that's not exactly, perfect form tackling there either. All right, so what do you
Yeah.
see here?
Yeah, so again, I like his eyes out the gate. I do think he is able to identify and understand a lot of things, which is where he's able to quickly understand. Like even in the last play where he wasn't physically able to make an impact where you'd like him to be, he was still able to process, understand like this is where the ball is going. So I always do like how his eyes naturally find the ball. And I think this play itself shows the lack of length he has. He might have measured in a little longer than I thought he would, but he plays with a lack of length that I am not too encouraged by. So this tight end, despite being probably around his size, maybe a bit smaller when it comes to weight wise, he's definitely got the length and height advantage, and he has to work through that. Now, I'd like to see him try to fight off the hands immediately, try to take like an underhand swipe at them or something like
That's
that.
that's the thing for me, man. It's like he's got the inside leverage here. Look at his left hand. The tight end has to reset. You've got to be trying to. I understand you're trying to contain, but you've got to throw that tight end. You've got to. Like you should have the power advantage here. If you got the inside leverage, throw him and get past him. Go make a play. Don't don't patty kick around waiting for something to happen and then chase it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he definitely could be more passive when it comes to like the run defending and things like that, especially when it's someone you think he should be able to just beat off the gate. And yeah, it's not the best form tackle. As I'm not going to knock him too much. It's not like he's a straight up linebacker where you're
Yeah.
anticipating them to be solid. So I'm not going to knock him too much. But yeah, it's not the best. And like I said, coming into this, my defense of him really is going to be that when it comes to pass rushing and especially against some of the top competition, he was excelling and being the guy that pops off the screen. And then I can definitely even in those games pull up where yeah he's getting run down the field 10 yards by Brock Bowers, or he isn't really getting effort when it comes to being a play side defender or when the ball's run away from him. And then there's other plays where it's like, okay, I can see where this is coming from. It's really going to be a consistency and effort thing. And once it's always a question mark when it comes to guys in college. Like, how much effort are you giving? How much is it that they're just being surrounded by guys being like, okay, you're our number one edge rusher, you're my number one guy, and he's like, well, run defending, it's below me. I don't really need to really put that much effort into it. And he doesn't have the physical profile to be able to dominate guys without having that effort. So if he's going to see early down action in the NFL, he's going to need to have that effort and drive to want to. He does have stuff to clean up as well when it comes to technically wise, but I do like his eyes in the run game. There's some limitations that are going to hold him back, where I think teams are going to draft him and expect him to really excel, especially early on, is going to be all right. It's 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12. Let's put you out there against their right tackle and see if you can, out athletic him, or if you can use some of those moves that you've shown in the past. Because, like I said, we didn't get really a good glimpse of it, but he does have some of those pass rush moves where you're like, okay, this is better than what a lot of these guys you have around him in the same tier bucket can do. Like a lot of these guys, we get left a lot saying, oh, well, they can develop more as a pass rusher, or they can develop more as a pass rusher. You can say that with him as well, where technically he can develop more as a pass rusher because he's that athletic, but he already also has that good baseline when it comes to a stable set of moves he uses that he can win with, that he knows he can win with. And then he's just trying and experimenting with other moves to try to counteract that and add more variety to maybe set up his other moves. So he'll attack with the speed because he knows he can counter inside, or he'll show that inside counter so that way he'll open up the speed one. He'll show a spin so that way he can fake the spin and do a swim move. He can pretend to do a spin and do the ghost move around the outside. So he has an understanding of how to set up a game and how it's a game-long fight between you versus this one tackle when it comes to a pass rusher. But there are areas of his game where it's like the run defending is not quite there yet. The consistency and the effort isn't going to be there right away. And that's going to be something where he's going to have to be a backup maybe year one, your rotational pass rusher on 3rd downs, and have a coaching staff who comes in and values having rotational defensive linemen be like, okay, we're going to get you your snaps. We're going to let you go out there and play and learn, but we need you to know that when you're coming off, you're watching and understanding what else you have to be doing and having these established guys that can really kind of mentor him originally. But he does have that athletic upside and that pass rushing upside that you're like, okay, this is something that maybe some of these later on guys who are strictly run defenders don't really have that kind of upside he can provide are going to offer. So we need to take him earlier on because we can build more. We can envision a better future of him than some of these guys who are more athletically or technically limited.
Right. Well, I'm all fine with all of that. I'm aware that not every prospect is coming in perfect, but just for me, that pushes him farther down my board. Right. I don't disagree with anything. I think it's just the value that we place on that particular player is different. Is the reality of it. So, all right. That's going to do it for BJ Ojulari today. We'll be back pretty soon with another breakdown. Not sure who we're doing or who's joining for the very next one. But Owen, appreciate you coming on. Remember, you can find him at Weekly Huddle on Twitter. You can find me at TheMaxDean. Defiant Takes Football is at Defiant Takes on all social media outlets. We're here live on the YouTube channel every Monday and Thursday. You can also find that in podcast form in our feed. And all written content is published at DefiantTakesFootball.com. We'll see you all very soon.